بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا نبينا مولانا محمد صلى الله على سيدنا محمد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين اللهم اجعلنا من أهل القرآن وخاصته اللهم اهدنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى آمين رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody online. Alhamdulillah, we are in the first lesson of the series of Journey Through the Quran in the month of Ramadan, the first lesson in the month of Ramadan, alhamdulillah. And we know that things are magnified in the month of Ramadan. Things are multiplied and magnified. So we hope, we firstly thank Allah for granting us the opportunity to actually engage in this once again. We remind ourselves that every opportunity we have, everything that we do really is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the ability to do so. We don't do things out of our own. That's part of our Aqidah. When we find ourselves in a specific place or in a specific space, it is because Allah wanted us to be there. And our teachers teach us that we actually have a debt to Allah when we find ourselves worshipping Allah. The debt is that we must thank Him for putting us in those spaces. Alhamdulillah. So we're sitting here trying to do what they call yatadarasunahu bainahum in the hadith, studying and understanding the Quran and what's the purpose, so that we can connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's through his connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through his divine words, through his Quran, through his book. So we make dua that Allah put some benefit in this little few moments that we're sitting here trying to get some understanding of this book, which is literally not from this world. It's a very interesting concept. No, the definition of Quran is kalamullah. It is the word of Allah, and this is I don't really want to go into the discussion, but it's the uncreated word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's like a very profound thing to think about. So anyway, I'm not going to go into that, but it's literally not from this world. And so we're engaging in studying something that is not from this world, and we resonate with it because we have something within us that is not from this world. And so there's something special about this book, and it comes to life when we recite it. These lessons that we're doing should act as an introduction, or to help us activate a connection with the Quran. But the actual experience of the Quran is when you recite it. So recitation is something special about this book, and it comes to life when we recite it. Not necessarily in these classes here, we're talking and we're giving our understandings and those kind of things of these things and stuff, but the word and the book itself is perfect. And when we start reciting it with adding into all the meanings and everything that we have at the back of our mind, engaging with this book is what we actually need to do. May Allah grant us many opportunities to engage with this book, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant that we can find openings, and connections to Him through this book. We know that we are in the month of Quran. In this month, the Quran was revealed specifically on the night of Laylatul Qadr. So it's a very special time that we are in, alhamdulillah. So let's get into the lesson. You can see there. So this is basically what we sort of going to be doing today, looking again at the 6 main themes of Surah Yasin. We are busy studying Surah Yasin, trying to get an understanding of the surah, and it's a very important surah. It's known as the heart of the Quran, right? And we're going to talk about that. But anyway, we're going to look at the 6 main themes as it's broken down by Noman Ali Khan, and then we're going to look at some translation and reflection on theme number 1 at least. I want to complete theme number 1 today because we've been trying to start for the last 2-3 lessons, and we're always running out of time or something. Anyway, if the females want to listen, they can. I don't know if they can hear. If they want to engage, it's fine. All right. Alhamdulillah, over the period that we've run this series, we completed Surah Fatiha, and it's all on the MSA Cape YouTube page. You can go there and go watch the videos. And then we completed Surah Sajida as well, and we're busy with Surah Yasin at the moment. Okay, 6 main themes of Surah Yasin. This was mentioned last week, but it's just something as a refresher. Sheikh Nu'man, he breaks the surah up into 6 sections. Right. The first section is verses number 1, ayat number 1 to 12. which is basically about the Quran and those who are heedless. Speaks about the Quran and those who actually reject it, and some consequences to that, which is something we're going to go into today. And then the second theme is basically lessons from history. There's a story that's being told of people of the town. That's a very interesting story, some things that we can learn from history. The third theme or section in the surah is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking about things around us that we can actually see right now today, creation around us, and some realities of that. Then the fourth section is the blind people who refuse to actually see these beautiful, miraculous things that's happening around us, right? Every time, all the time, we're walking, we sometimes heedless, often we're not really taking note. But if you just look around you to see what is around you, creation, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, the skies and all of this, just look at these things and contemplate. Really profound things. Things are happening around us all the time. Miracles are happening around us all the time, but we are dead. we are too busy with our own selves and just too self-absorbed that we don't even realize what's happening around us. Allah forgive us for our shortcomings. Section number 5 is the day of judgment and what's going to happen to the criminals and to those who follow the guidance. And then section number 6 is again about the Quran and how the arrogant don't respond the way they should. And Sheikh Nu'man, he gives a brief insight into how there's the symmetry, man, in the Quran, man. It's like really amazing how the symmetry, there's symmetrical relationships between how things are arranged in the Quran. Just at all levels, if you look at the Quran, it's just magnificent and marvelous. And it becomes clearer. It becomes clear and clear as we engage with the Quran that this is the word of Allah. That this is, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we go deeper into studying the Quran and understanding the Quran. So how do these things relate? Section number 1 and section number 6 are both about the Quran and incorrect attitudes towards it. Right? And then section number 2 is about the past. Section number 5 is about the future. And then section number 3 is, and 4 is about the present. Here we're looking at things around us. And here we're looking at people who are heedless and people who are blind to the things that's around us happening in the present. So this is a miracle. This is a miracle, really. Like how, remember, the Quran was recited. How do you recite and speak in such perfection? And it's really something interesting, something amazing, right? So that's some insights, and inshallah, let's look straight into theme number 1. The Quran and those who are heedless. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay. Before I start translating, I'm going to recite. And the reason I'm going to recite is because, like we said, the Quran comes alive through recitation. So I'm going to recite the first 12 verses, inshallah. Just listen attentively. After we're done reciting, we'll go into translation, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Okay, Yasin. This was explained before, but this is huruful muqatta'at, the cut up letters. The famous view is that la ya'lamu muradaha illa Allah, meaning that none knows its true meaning except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are popular views with regards to Yasin and Taha that it is the name, or a title for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam Muhammad. And so many scholars opine that this means Yasin means is referring to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? How did they come to that conclusion? There's different ways. One of the ways they explain is that like in Arabic, if I call somebody, I can say Ya Jilani, right? So that means, oh Jilani, I'm calling, right? So the scholars say that refers to like it's called the harfun nida, of calling, and then the sin is the middle letter of insan, and so insan means mankind. So it's different views, but they say because that's the essence of the word, and the Prophet ﷺ is the essence of creation, therefore it's referring to the Prophet ﷺ. That's one view, right? And it's fine if you want to take that view, but so it could refer to the Prophet ﷺ. Therefore, in dhikr, sometimes people recite this and they say Yasin sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they're going with the view that it means the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah alam, but that's those are all views. Wal Qur'anil Hakim innaka laminal mursalin. These actually go together. Wal Qur'anil Hakim is the wow here is a wawul qasam. Wawul qasam meaning it's a wow of taking an oath. And so in this section of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts doing this more frequently, where he starts taking oaths, right? Swearing, taking an oath by something. And there's many reasons why we take oaths, or why oaths are being taken, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every single thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does in the Quran is for a reason. Every single thing is done for a reason. So why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even need to take an oath? And what is the need for an oath? So there's a couple of reasons. We take an oath on something when we're busy with something serious. You take oaths normally in court. You're going to testify. Sometimes we do it as Muslims, we do it playfully. Wallahi, sometimes we do it playfully. We shouldn't actually, but sometimes people do it playfully. There's many different reasons why. Sometimes people take oaths because somebody's not going to believe them, right? And so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes oaths. Something interesting and important to understand, we must also understand the culture of the people that has been receiving this specific message. Remember, this is a Makkan surah. So it has been revealed in the early days of revelation, the first 10 years, right? 9 or 8 years, somewhere there, right? And the primary audience here were the Quraysh. Towards the latter part of the Makkan period, the primary audience was the Quraysh. And if we're moving towards the latter part of the Makkan period, you must understand that we're at the point where the Quraysh have already heard many of the callings of the Prophet ﷺ. They've already witnessed and heard the call of the Prophet ﷺ. So at this point, they're actually heedless. Many of them are heedless. Many of them are rejecting. Many of them are actively trying to hurt Rasulullah ﷺ. There's so many things if you read the seerah, right? That has been happening. So this is the sort of audience, and this is the audience that's receiving this message. Some of them have accepted, some of them have rejected, some of them are actively trying to destroy the Prophet ﷺ. And all of these things are happening. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath. Wal Quran. He's saying, I swear by the Quran. By the wise Quran. Al-Hakim means you can translate it as by the Quran, rich in wisdom, but the wise, rich in wisdom Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath on the Quran. And why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing this? I need to mention something just for you to get an appreciation for what's happening over here. In ancient Arabic, right? One of the reasons why they used to take oaths is to get people's attention. So like Sheikh Nu'man makes the example, when you give who gives the announcements here, the Jummah khutbah? Do you guys sometimes give announcements at Jummah khutbah? Abdul Razak. You never gave announcements for the khutbah. So the person who's giving announcements for the khutbah, he must now get attention from the people, man. So now the people want to, now you give announcements, the people want to get done. Now you give a lot of announcements. And so how does he get people's attention? In ancient Arabic times, if you wanted to get people's attention, you would take an oath on something. And then people would look. Like sometimes you think of the audience and say, pay attention. That's how we do it here. In ancient Arabic culture, if they wanted to get attention of people, they would take an oath. So they say, I swear on the mountains. The Prophet ﷺ did that when he called all the people. Would you believe me? I swear by something, right? So if you understand that, then you can understand the power of taking an oath for the people who's been receiving it primarily, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we could say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to get the attention of people. Wal Qur'anil Hakim. Okay, these people who's receiving the message, they know what the Quran is. So it's like Yasin. Firstly, we don't know what this thing means. What does Yasin means? La ya'lam muradaha illallah. Could be whatever. Wal Qur'anil Hakim. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking an oath on this Quran, and they knew the power of that Quran. They knew what the Quran was doing, and they heard these verses being recited from the Prophet ﷺ, and they experienced its power. And so now, getting their attention by the wise Quran. Then what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Innaka laminal mursalin. There is no doubt that you, O Muhammad, you, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are truly one of the messengers. What's the wisdom in this? You can read this like this. You can say, let's say Yasin is referring to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, O Muhammad, by the Quran, you are a prophet. It's almost as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he's taking an oath on the Quran, which is the book that the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been receiving and people have been experiencing it, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing on the Quran, and the Quran itself is almost as if it's evidence that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is in fact a messenger. People couldn't deny it when they were there, because what happened basically was when they heard this Quran, some people said, what is this? Like this magic? It's like a crazy effect on people. Umar radiallahu an, when he was smiling there, mashallah. Umar radiallahu an, when he became Muslim by hearing this Quran. He was on his way to kill Rasulullah. You know the story, right? He was on his way to kill Rasulullah, and then his sister, you know the story, and then his sister recited some Quran, and he was like, what is this? And he became Muslim. That's the power of this. So the Quran itself is an entity that stands to testify that Rasulullah is actually a messenger. And so he doesn't need anybody else. Allah is confirming. Allah is the one who's confirming here that Rasulullah is a messenger. Right? And so we could read those verses. Just saying, okay. Ala siratim mustaqim, still referring to the Prophet ﷺ. He is upon a straight path. This thing is moving very slow here. Let's go back here again. Ala siratim mustaqim, the Prophet ﷺ is upon a straight path. Tanzil al-Aziz ar-Rahim. This is a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, the way this thing is versed, this verse is grammatically Tanzil al-Aziz ar-Rahim, referring to the Quran. These verses affirm these verses 3 and 4 that we mentioned earlier. 3 and 4. Just get my yeah. I don't know why this thing is so slow. Yasin wal Quran al Hakim innaka laminal mursalin ala siratim mustaqim. Verse number 3 and verse number 4 simply affirms that the Prophet ﷺ is a messenger and his mission is to call people to Allah. Right? Thank you. What it affirms. Sorry, man. My PC is freezing. Yeah. I think I just got disconnected. Is it not on there? I don't know what happened. Just some technical issues here. Sorry, guys. Maybe back up again. I'm doing that. Just double check this thing. Is it on there? Can you see on the YouTube? Yes. Is it changing? Okay. Sorry, I just had to restart my slides here. All right. We went through all of this. Okay, so we're translating Yasin wal Quran al Hakim, innaka lamin al mursalin. These are all about the Prophet ﷺ and about his message, and about him affirming that he's actually a messenger. People were denying in that time. Kabiyana. Okay. على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم, right? So now we're talking about the Quran, Tanzil al-Aziz al-Rahim. This Quran has been sent in piecemeal over 23 years. Contextually, as things happened, the Quran came down pieces in pieces, giving rules and giving insight and all of those kind of things. And today, alhamdulillah, we have it in the form of a book. Right? Important, guys, that everybody now that's here that just came in, it's important that we engage with this book. It's important that we engage with this book. That is when it becomes alive, right? This is really, really a great revelation. It came down little by little, slowly revealing revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala via Jibreel alayhi salam to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon his heart, and he's sharing it with the Sahaba, and it gets passed down. This is a unique thing also in our religion, is that we have the scholars and the ulama as a direct link of learning the Quran. I don't know if you guys know the concept of sanad, but it's a very unique thing, right? We can confirm with very little doubt, no doubt at all, that this Quran is exactly verbatim the word, exactly how the Prophet ﷺ received it. That's a miracle. We don't have to doubt anything in this book. That's a miracle. You know, so interpretations is a different thing, but it's a miracle that we have this book. Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions one of the purposes here for the revelation, so that in order that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can actually warn his people, whose forefathers were not warned, and so they became heedless. And there's many things that we can actually draw out of this verse. What is this verse saying? This verse is saying that group of people there in the time of 7th century Arabia, they haven't received, at least that locality over there, right? In Saudi Arabia, where the Prophet ﷺ was actually busy. They haven't received a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a long time. Right? Neighboring countries maybe have, but they haven't received in a long time. And so what is the consequences of not receiving a reminder? The consequences is that they became heedless. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to give them Rasulullah to actually give them some insight and some guidance so that they can live and fix their life and do things properly. Right? So that's the gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to give them. They needed it. They were becoming heedless. They were doing really, really crazy things. They were burying the children alive. They were worshipping idols. They were doing things that didn't even make sense, really. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to gift them with this Quran. Right? لَقَدْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَىٰ أَكْثَرِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. It's a gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given for them in order for them to be guided to attain the best of this world and the best of the year after, yet many of them rejected. And what do we learn from that? We learn that when you are given something, imagine somebody gives you something really great and you just refuse to accept. That's what they did. That's what many of the Quraysh people did in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. That's unacceptable. That's a crime. If you are given something, it's made clear to you. Rasulullah ﷺ was one of the most eloquent people that spoke. The message was made clear to him. The message was made clear to people through the Mubarak lips of Rasulullah ﷺ. And the Quran was being revealed in front of them, and they rejected. And they had the reasons why they rejected. It's very difficult. What then? What do they deserve then? If you just reject and things are crystal clear. Kufr is rejecting something when it is made crystal clear. That's what kufr is. Right? So the message has been received, has been understood, it has been delivered by Rasulullah ﷺ, who obviously is one of the most eloquent of people. He was known to be eloquent and known to be trustworthy before the time. He was a trustworthy person. He wasn't somebody that was like random in his community that nobody knew. People knew he was trustworthy. They trusted him. He was a very good, very honest person. And this person is giving the message and it's crystal clear. And they couldn't accept it for many reasons that they had. That's unacceptable. That is something that can't be justified. if something is crystal clear and you don't accept. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, لَقَدْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَىٰ أَكْثَرِهِمْ. Remember, this is the latter part of the Meccan period. And so they came to a point where they've denied so much already. They've seen, they've understood, they've denied so much already, and it's almost as if there's a seal on their heart, man. They've now done so many wrong things to such an extent that they've almost like solidified their place in Jahannam. And so these verses now come. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying here that لَقَدْ حَقَّ الْقَوْلُ, the decree of torment, the decree of torment is not written here, but it's understood. The decree of punishment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, has already been justified against them, against most of them. Why? For they will never believe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, because they did really, really cruel things to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you know the seerah, they did really cruel things to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? They stoned him, they rejected him, they made his life difficult, they did a lot of these things, right? And so in response to that, because they did all these things, they sealed their fate. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying over here, this is the end result of the heedless people who continuously reject. Allah can forgive. For as long as we're loving, Allah can forgive. And so that's why, okay, I must end soon, inshallah, 2 minutes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does forgive, especially in this month of Ramadan. This month of Ramadan is a very, very special time. If we've been heedless, if we've been neglecting what we're supposed to be doing, we all know ourselves, and nobody needs to judge anybody. We all know ourselves. If we've been neglecting anything, this is the time to turn to Allah. This is the time to ask Allah to forgive. That's all you have to do. If you've witnessed and understood the reality of the truth of this message, then it is expected from you to submit and try your best. And we're going to make mistakes. We're going to sin. We're going to do all of those things. That's part of our nature, that we slip and we fall, we make mistakes. What's expected from us is to accept this message. The very, 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 very minimum is that if we sinning and those kind of things, the very minimum is that we must not reject these things in our heart, because then we're playing dangerous games with our akhirah. Okay. So these next few verses are sort of consequences of what happens to those people who continuously reject and actively go against what is clearly true. Right? Inna ja'alna, this is a very heavy verse. Inna ja'alna fi a'naqihim aghlalan fahiya ila al-athqani fahum muqmahun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, it is as if we made a'naqihim, upon the necks, we have placed this kind of shackles, almost like a kind of shackle that pushes your head up. That's what the aghlal is, right? Fahiya ila al-athqani, right? Around the necks up to the chins. Fahum muqmahun. So the heads are kind of like forced up. And the image that's created here is that there's truth in front of them, but because they've done these bad things, it's almost like they can't even see it. If your head is looking up, you can't see what's right in front of you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sealed their fate because of how they rejected the truth when they knew exactly what that this thing was true. These are very heavy verses, and it is important to understand that these verses are it's very explicit. These verses are aimed at those people who continuously reject, and actively go against what is clearly true. Allah protect us from being of these people. This is what they did back then. And so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just giving us a warning. This is the end road of what happens if you continue down that path. Don't. If you're on that path, turn. Repent. Ask Allah to forgive you. And again, I'm going to repeat this and I'm going to conclude, inshallah. The best time to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now, in this Mubarak month, right? When so many things are being accepted. This month is one of the things that special qualities of this month is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frees people from the fire of Jahannam. Right? Maybe because they did some bad things. May Allah protect us, may Allah forgive us, may Allah guide us, may Allah put barakah in these classes. Just a reminder that these classes are taking place every Wednesday. I think next week we're going to take a break because you guys are on a break. We will start again the following week, inshallah. We are translating and going through Surah Yasin in translation. I'll end here, inshallah, because it's time to make dua now, and I know people have classes and tests and stuff. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, subhanahu wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Shukran. Make that and you can